Mr. Kodwa, just the essence of the importance of this day, the build-up to this day, and what can South Africans look forward to as we commemorate this Sharpeville Day, known as Human Rights Day?
Samkele, when we commemorate a day like this, is to reconfirm and recommit ourselves as a country that never again shall we experience a discrimination of one race against the other. What has brought us to be where we are today, it must never happen again. But also is to remind us as a generation, especially a younger generation like yourself, that there was yesterday and we have made progress in relation to human rights. And I was saying to somebody else earlier, there are certain things that we take for granted today that we have made progress to build a culture of human rights. For an example, in 1949, there was an act called Prohibition of Mixed Marriage Act. You are not allowed to have any sexual relations with a white person. You will go to Motabi prison, which is not far from here. It was a crime. We have made progress with regards to that. Everywhere you went, there were signs about net blankets. Net blankets meant only whites. Even a toilet, you take it for granted. In a toilet today, you think it's normal. We come from that past. We've made progress. There were schools which were only known as net blankets. We've made progress. Public amenities, stadiums, malls. You won't walk in the same path on the road with a white person. You have to give him or her. We've made progress. These are the things that, from a point of view of the human rights culture, which were legislated by law to discriminate, we're second-class citizens as black people. But of course, Samkele, before you ask me your next question, I can read your mind about challenges we face today. Challenges of unemployment, water, and everything else. These are challenges of service delivery, not on the basis of race. What we are dealing here, we are dealing with a human rights culture of people that originated here at this place, that they were made to be dehumanized, and they were never recognized and never had rights before.
But Mr. Kodwa, me as Samkele Maseko, sitting in Applespoort, Ward 4 in Umshwati, having no water, having no access to education, having to walk 110 or so kilometers in a day to access schools, having to cross through a river, Mvoti, going to a school. Is that human rights?
Samkele, sometimes when you ask about these challenges, we speak as though there was no South Africa before 30 years we're celebrating now. We're dealing with a legacy of 345 years in 30 years. And it's important to keep that at the back of our mind. Although it must not justify some of the instances where there's complete neglect of human rights. In some instances, that's why if there's a lack of water, for example, government will find a way to complement, whether it's tank water and so on, because you realize that water is a human right issue. Whether talking about electricity, for example, whether you are talking about a right to school, right to life, those things are issues of service delivery which government is addressing. But the point is important to make this distinction. We must not talk about 30 years as though South Africa is a 30-year-old country. We're dealing with a legacy of 345 years, which was meant to dehumanize and to make black people as second-class citizens.
What can South Africans look forward to when the president addresses at the George Taba Cricket Stadium?
Is to recommit the democratically elected government and governments in future that never again shall we experience a situation where people are dehumanized on the basis of race, of creed, of religion. And we have made progress. It is that progress that we must make sure that we address these challenges of service delivery, that themselves they have elements of undermining human rights, such as water, for an example. I'm
loving the shirt that you are wearing because it then moves next to my next point, which is away from government and your area of deployment in KwaZulu-Natal. Begum Tolo had a press briefing yesterday as the provincial secretary of the ANC, basically highlighting their unhappiness with the Zulu Prime Minister, Reverend Thulasizwe Buthelezi, after the incident of Siboniso Duma, the provincial chair and also MEC of Economic Development, grabbing the mic from the Prime Minister of the Zulu Nation as the ANC and the head of deployees in that province. How do you navigate through this difficult situation that you now find yourselves with the ANC and IFP at loggerheads? Your members were beaten up in Ngwaceza, allegedly by IFP people. There's now a standoff between the royal family and also the ANC and Siboniso Duma, the provincial chair.
There's no standoff between the royal family and the ANC. I think the provincial leadership and ourselves, led by myself as a convener of deployees, White One, how they've handled that issue. With a statement by our provincial secretary, immediately after this event, I'll be joining the provincial leadership in dealing with these issues. There's no standoff. I think what we're beginning to see is that certain political party wants to use the royal house for political mileage. And that is where the ANC, we have always been strong that we must not use the royal house, for whatever reasons, any political party for political mileage. That incident was being used to gain political mileage. And I think the ANC, post that event, is beginning to look back and say, we may be visiting the royal house to see Mbube, to see Silo, to express our commitment, our loyalty to the royal house, as we've always done. That does not mean the mawuya emzini uyoshweleza akusho ukuthi you are admitting you are wrong. Ushweleza inhlonipho ukuthi that incident should not have happened. And again, sivumelane ukuthi it should not happen again beyond what has happened. We must make sure there's peace, there's no violence, because we know the price of violence in KwaZulu-Natal in particular. There may be elements who may enjoy that moment and want to take it further through violence. We must make sure that we provide leadership, even providing leadership to the IFP, that must provide leadership on them, that there may be elements who may want to hijack that for their own subjective reasons. So we'll be discussing these matters. The provincial leadership is handling this matter quite very well.
When is the president going, Ugoshweleza, as you are saying, you may be going there? Are you going with the president? I'm told he's going to Eastern Cape this weekend. Are you going there next week or the following weekend?
There's a planned visit by the provincial leadership. All what I'm doing, I'm just accompanying the provincial leadership. As and when, what time, which day, they will let you know. I can't speak on behalf of the provincial leadership. This is a provincial leadership that is guided by inhlonipho kaNdlunkulu. Ukuthi nakanjani makwenzeke isehlo esinjena izoya kuNdlunkulu. And definitely they've made that point. They will go to kwaNdlunkulu.
Do you think that there was a deliberate intent by Reverend Thulasizwe, Undunankulu kaZulu, to portray a certain image of Bheki Nkosi Mtolo, particularly knowing in that WhatsApp group where it is said Mtolo called King Mrs. Zulu kaZwelithini isilo sasebhalithi?
We have a recent person who occupied that position as our immediate reference. Maseko umntwana kapindangeni. He hardly used the government event to raise political issues of a political party. He respected government events because he respected that position. And I think going back what had happened, it may not help now because we must make sure that which that happened, unfortunate incident, it never happens again.
Has the president spoken to King Mrs. Zulu kaZwelithini after the incident?
The president, I'm sure, uzozikhulumela ukuba ukhulumela angazi ukuthi ucingo every day upresident ukhuluma nobani.
But you are seen as the president's right-hand man. Surely you do know, as particularly knowing the political portfolio you hold in the province of KwaZulu-Natal.
Samkele, happy Human Rights Day.
Thank you very much, Mr. Good enough, Zizi Kodwa. They're essentially asking him questions on that particular issue of the mics that were grabbed in Kwaqeza and the violence that took place afterwards, where ANC members were allegedly beaten up by IFP people who were wearing IFP regalia, in the words of Bheki Nkosi Mtolo. But Zizi Kodwa saying that they will be going with the provincial leadership of the ANC in the province. That would be Siboniso Duma, that would be Nomakuku Simelani, that would be Bheki Nkosi Mtolo, that would be Siphohlo Muga, that would be Dr. Ntuthuko Mahlaba, the provincial secretary, to go and Yoshweleza Gwisilo Ingonyama Inkosi uMisuzulu kaZwelithini.